Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our fireside chat on how to design an employer brand for 2021. A really big topic, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Mark Puncher, CEO and founder at Employer Branding Australia. So Mark is a dad, a CEO, and a big fan of gin. He's spent much of the last 18 years with one hand in marketing, the other in talent attraction, and both feet in leadership. Mark lives and breathes employer branding and culture shaping. When he isn't doing that, his current hobbies include finger painting, 5 a.m. ballet, and building dens. Mark also has a strong belief in the importance of wine, which I love. And Mark, I agree with you on the wine and the gin. I'm not so hot on the 5 a.m. ballet. So thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Thank you very
And
much. I don't have much choice, Alex.
I'm sure. I'd love you to give a little bit of an introduction to Employer Branding Australia and some of the work that you and your team do.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. And hello everybody. I set up Employer Branding Australia about 3 years ago. I think my big bugbear is where marketing has got to for many employers, many companies, and I suppose I'm a marketer who hates or is quite suspicious of most marketing. So I wanted to create something that is built on true authenticity. And in employer branding, you can't do it any other way if you want to get results. So very, very proud to have spent the last 3 years working with many organizations of all sizes, including very small organizations, a handful of people, maybe a tech startup with 50 people, all the way up to some really big government departments and very big brands and big organizations. And I think the biggest thing is we've learned so much along the way around what works and what doesn't work, and very, very proud that we've delivered a lot of results, I suppose, through EVP, as we're going to talk about, but also through just great content and storytelling.
Amazing. And I've had the pleasure of hearing Mark speak and talk to case studies over the past, I guess, 3 years almost. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing about your wisdom today. Before we get started, though, anyone on the webinar, please feel free to ask questions via the Q&A section in Zoom rather than the chat section, and we will absolutely get to them at the end of the talk. And we will send a recording of the webinar to everyone this afternoon. Oh, no, sorry, later on in the week. So let's get started. Mark, I often see employee value proposition, often called EVP, or employer branding, used interchangeably. It might be good for everyone on the call to hear the difference and how you design employer brand.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's very, very common. And whether you are a CEO or somebody else working in a small business without a people and culture function, or whether you're a people and culture specialist or potentially a marketing person, there's a lot of mix up around these things. So really simply, and I'll give you my take, everyone has different views on this, but my take and what I've learned and observed over the years is that you can't just change your employer brand. So people say, okay, 2021, we're going to change our employer brand. Your employer brand exists, whether you like it or not, you have one. So it's not switching on and off. The employer brand is about how the audience, well, everybody, but specifically the audiences you're trying to communicate with and target, whether it's for talent or anything else, is how they feel about you, their instinct. And one example I'd give you is, if you're thinking about recruiting for roles, somebody sees that you're advertising before they even read the job ad. It's not a case of, okay, there's a job ad, I will read it all and I will decide whether to apply. The first thing is, well, do I want to read the job ad? Information is so fast now. It's about, do I want to be there? So if you see Employer Branding Australia, if you see Employment Hero, if you see Redland City Council, if you see Google, there's all sorts of things triggered from the moment you see a name or a logo. And then from that first line or the first couple of lines in the job ad. So employer branding is what makes people want to work for you or not. And the other point, of course, is that flows through to existing talent. It's not just about future talent and candidates and whether they want to apply and join you. It's about what keeps them there, why they stay, why they might consider leaving. And we're going to talk about this a lot, but they're very, very interrelated. Employee value proposition is the bit you can control. So the EVP is your message to market that articulates very clearly and honestly, this is what you get. And I don't just mean the pay or the benefits and the, the massage at your desk on a Friday afternoon. Wouldn't that be nice? They're the benefits and they can be a part of it. But the fundamental is, this is why you should work for us. This is why we are a great choice for the right people with the right motivations and the right expectations. And my favorite bit is when employers are courageous and comfortable and self-assured, and they can say, and this is why we might not be the best choice for you. Because when you do that, there's no better way to attract people than being honest and open and actually helping people self-deselect. So your employer brand is happening all the time. It's how people feel. You can shape your employer brand. And one key way to do that is through having a really powerful, well-researched, well-evidenced and backed up employee value proposition.
I love that. And I love your point about being courageous and honest. It's certainly something that we do at Employment Hero. And I know you recommend to all of your people that you do, and that is you opt in. The candidate experience these days, it's a choice as to whether someone takes a job with you or they don't. And so you need to be really upfront about some things about your company that might not be perfect. And a really good example with us is that we move fast and we're pretty ambiguous. And you have to be able to navigate your way through that, ask questions, be bold and be ambitious. So we do often say to candidates, if you're coming in here, we move fast, so you need to be up for that. Are you up for that? Rather than kind of putting them through the threads of, random questions that test them through it.
Alex,
So
that makes
moving
so much
on.
sense. Sorry,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense to me, because so why do people think when they start recruiting, we've got to start lying or selling, or, don't tell them about the toxic team they're going to join. They're going to get in this organization. They're going to work with these people. They're going to experience it. And here's the thing, the best result of hiring the wrong person is not that they leave quickly and you have to recruit again. It's that they stay and they feel, that they've been oversold, they've been misled, or that they weren't up to the challenge that is in front of them. So it just makes so much sense to really not just to share the challenges, but actually celebrate the challenges. It really isn't for everybody. Not every employer is right for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So moving on to the next point, the topic of, I guess, much conversation is, how do you think COVID has changed the way that an organization needs to think about their employer brand, especially as we move into the new year?
Well, that's a great question. I would love to know from people, what they found around recruitment in terms of volume of quality candidates, in terms of people leaving and so on. My take on this is very clear, but not all. It's a little bit controversial. Is that there's an idea that you say, for example, well, it used to be a candidate-driven market, so lots of candidates could take their pick, and now there's lots of people who are looking for a job. So it's all about, we're in the driving seat now, and we don't need to worry. Absolute rubbish. If the main challenge right now is you've got a lot of people who are just trying to pay their loan, trying to get a job so they can cover things. I know so many incredibly talented people whose contracts aren't being renewed, who've lost their job, who are in a job but they think it's coming. There's a lot of that, and those people will join somewhere, even if it means it's sort of, well, it's a stepping stone, it's a runway, it's just to give me some security. So it's very, very hard actually right now, because you want to recruit people. Yeah, you want to enjoy that, but actually you need to ensure that people are joining you for the right reasons. And here's the thing, you might attract somebody because they need a gig and they need some money, and they're worried, but actually it could be an amazing person for you. You need to connect with them about what you're trying to do, get them excited about it. So people are in that thing of, it's fight or flight and I've got to feed my kids, and but actually you could take the opportunity to inspire them about what you're trying to achieve, and an amazing relationship could be built. So I think that's the first thing. The other, I think, misconception out there right now is that, our retention rates are through the roof because people aren't leaving isn't that great. Someone staying in a company is not the same as someone performing and contributing to your culture. I know many people personally who are staying in their job. They hate their job, or they're unhappy, or they want different, but they're too afraid to leave, or they think, well, why would I leave? There's not a lot out there, or better the devil you know. What an awful phrase, better the devil you know. So I think anybody who's saying, well, now our employees will shut up and just get on with the job, is missing the point completely. We need to now find an employer branding right now, and it's always been about your current people first, but it's about how do we connect with our current team? How do we get them wanting to perform and contribute to our culture? Obviously, there's the realities of, I feel for everyone in Victoria and obviously South Australia now, there are challenges and so on. If you're working from home, if you're away from the office, it's changed everything around that relationship and flexible working. So there's a need to reconnect with your people. Why are you here? Inspire them on your purpose, set very clear expectations on outcomes and outputs. But most importantly, make sure they feel really connected to you and they feel empowered to do their job. So I think employer branding, it was always about much more than glossy, hypey marketing. That isn't what it should be. But I think in 2020 and moving to 2021, it's nothing else. It is about connecting with your current team and then opening the windows and letting everybody else see inside so they want to work for you too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it breaks my heart to hear that you're seeing people that are just keeping their job for the sake of keeping it. It's not dissimilar to when I read employee comments from our own happiness survey and I hear that people are unhappy, and it's kind of, oh, what can I do to make you happy and connect you to our purpose? And certainly during our own interview process, we make sure that we really touch on purpose and make sure that people are driven by our purpose. And that's especially, to your point, true at the moment when you see people who are willing to take jobs for very significant pay cuts, and you really do question, are they just taking this job, and once we come out of this kind of COVID drama, are they going to just jump ship? So making sure that you align that purpose during the interview process and connecting to your current employees is just so vital.
I agree, and there's a downside to that. If you bring, if you know, I heard someone the other day who didn't get a job because they said you're way overqualified. I think again, don't be so simplistic. You know, that could be an amazing hire for you. You could say, well, yeah, they might want to move on in a year's time, but how amazing could that 12 months be? You know, it's about opening your mind up and opening the conversation up to be honest with each other.
Oh, that's right. And what you could get in those 12 months of that one person could be amazing. And then they move on as a brand advocate, which is great.
Mm.
So, on that point, due to COVID, there are obviously many HR departments or small to medium businesses that don't even have an HR department. So, they're under resourced and underfunded. How might you tell them to put employee branding higher on their priority list, because they might have put it lower on their priority list just because things are too crazy at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great point. So again, just for anybody who wasn't here at the start but is joined now, the big point here is employer branding. You think the B word. I'm not a fan of the B word, but I put it in my company name. You know, branding gives this idea of expensive gloss, you know, fuzzy and fluffy and probably a bit dishonest. And actually, this is not about that. So two key questions. How much is it costing you to find the right talent that you need? And I don't mean just money, effort, energy, and so on. And are you consistently finding them? Are you consistently seeing great shortlists of people that are connected and that come in with their eyes open about the challenges about working with you? And how are your people feeling? How are they? You know, are they connected? How are they performing? You know, think about that difference between. I'm sure everybody on the session will have had a time when they've really connected. Hopefully, it's right now. Really connected with the employer they're working for, or if it's their own company, with what they're trying to achieve, and then and got on with their manager, known what their contribution is, felt valued and recognized. Think about the moment in your career when it's been the opposite, when you haven't connected. I've had two, maybe three of those experiences in my career, and the difference not only in how I felt but how I performed was night and day. So key question is, if you think about employer, forget the words employer branding, just think about this. If you want to really grow as a business, if you want to survive through what could be a strong recession, we don't know, if you want to innovate, if you want to evolve, if you want to change, you have to connect with your people and inspire them, and not just getting new people in, but engaging the ones you have. So I'd say stick it right at the top, but also look at some specifics about what you can do without having to spend a lot of money, without having to spend a lot of time. And there are many tricks that we can share that you can do.
Yeah, there are. And even if you don't have a platform like Employment Hero where you can survey your employees, back to Mark's point, talk to your people. So there are free platforms like SurveyMonkey where you can put an employee survey out there and ask people, how are they feeling? What can we as a leadership team do better? How can we make you more successful? How can we connect you better to our purpose as a business. For us at Employment Hero, we try to probably every second week at our all hands on a Friday, we try to tell customer stories where we connect our purpose to our actual customer outcomes, which then helps to link our people's and what they're doing in their roles back to what we do for our customers, which is make employment easier and more rewarding for everyone. So it's really, you know, Mark makes such an important point. It is so much more than just your employer brand. It's about making sure you speak inside to your people the same as you are speaking externally. So further to that point, Mark, it can often be really difficult to get senior leader buy-in for employer branding. How can people and culture or whoever might be looking after the function get these decision makers on board?
It's a great point, and I'll be honest with you. This is going to sound a bit arrogant, but often it just takes the conversation with the right person. So I'm very proud that, and it's not, this isn't applause for me. It's just because this is so obvious, but people don't, until they hear it, they don't think about it. I've spent time with leadership teams, with CEOs, with boards. 20 minutes of asking the right questions and showing the right things will get people in the space. I've shared some of it already today, but if we start talking about, you know, why do we only think about recruitment when someone resigns? Why do we think of recruitment as a distressed purchase? Someone's resigned, so I've got to go out and get there. If you only think about recruitment when you have a vacancy, you're never going to consistently, I just lost my lights. You're never going to consistently recruit well. So really getting that right and thinking about that makes sense. It's the obvious thing as well. It's what are the things that your leadership team or your board care about, and usually it is the commercial outcomes. So if you think about what employer branding should do, it's not just save us money. I mean, I've got a client that we saved them $326,000 with 4 video stories because they were spending a lot of money with external recruitment consultants. So I think that's you know, there's a good example. But it's not just about saving money. What does it actually cost you to have a revolving door of employees leaving all the time? What does it cost you? You know, I know a lot of organizations, especially smaller ones and growing organizations, who say our inability to attract people quickly enough and get them through the door and engaged is holding us back as a company. So if you're in human services, its funding is linked to you delivering services, so you get a contract and you've got to have staff. If you're in a startup of any kind or in phase 2 growth, whatever it is, having the right people will drive your organization's commercial performance. So what is the impact of not being able to get those people into the organization? And what is the impact if you're seeing people consistently leave? And the cultural impact, the performance impact, the productivity impact. Nobody wants to sit on a losing team or a sinking ship.
Oh, absolutely agree, Mark. And I did some research the other day, and HRD magazine had done some research into the attrition, and losing someone in Australia costs you around about 18.5K in terms of recruitment and retraining them, the impact on morale of the rest of the team, etc. So Mark, do you have some low cost or low effort suggestions for people to get started on employer branding?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And there are some that you can do with a partner like us. That's fine. There's also things you can do on your own. It's all about what you're trying to achieve, first of all. So we always talk about the 3 key ingredients of employer branding is proposition, strategy, and storytelling. So proposition is, think about ideally, you know, you'd have an EVP. So an employee value proposition is understand why your people work for you, talk to them, engage them, do the research, look at all your data, any data you've got. If you haven't got any data, just talk to your people, talk to candidates, talk to former employees, and then craft that EVP. But on that level, if you don't have a lot of budget, or if there isn't the appetite there, or if you're not, you know, if it's a very small business, well, just talk to the people that you have, you know. So if you do nothing else today and you care about this stuff, go and call 5 people. Why do you stay here? Why did you join in the first place? If you've got new hires, why don't you call 5 of them and say, what attracted you in the first place? And why did you hesitate? Are there any reasons that you might not have applied? So just start to understand those things. Now, clearly that isn't robust for a full EVP, but it's a great start. So that's the first one, proposition. So ask your people, connect with your people. The strategy is not about 60 pages of beautifully bound and designed copy that you can put in the board report. It's a page. What are we actually going to do to shape our employer brand and be front of mind? So the first thing you could do, let's say if it's low budget, whether you're working with someone like us or whether you are doing it yourselves, is start with audience. Who are we at? So let's say it's a recruitment element, trying to get the right people into your organization. Who are we actually trying to attract? Who do we need? Good question is, when we are recruiting, and let's say you're recruiting all the time for similar roles, what if all of our shortlisted candidates were sitting in a waiting room together like they used to in 1982 or whatever it was? What do they look like? Who are they? And who isn't in the room that we'd really love to see more of, those underrepresented groups and so on? If you start with audience, well, the next question is, well, what matters to those people? We know that everybody's different, but there are no doubt the similarities. If you are consistent, if you know that the majority of your candidates that you're going to see are between 20 and 25, looking at their second role, they care, they care about progression and growth as much as they care about the impact they get to have. Well, the next question is, well, do we deliver that? And how do you experience that here? And then you build that into your job ads. Then you build that into your conversation. So start with audience and build a plan around that. The next point around that plan and that strategy is, well, aside from when we need to recruit, what are we doing each week, each month, each day, whatever, on social media, externally, to show our culture? And it might be as simple as, just trying to give some ideas. It might be as simple as just a photo every couple of days of the office or the team, or asking your employees to share any photos, share any stuff that happens. Just choose one every couple of days and put it out there. It might be some stories about your people. We've seen amazing results for recruitment, but also employee engagement and performance through storytelling about your people. And that's where it really does help to have experts involved who can write really well, who understand talent and talent marketing and can put that out. Video is very, very powerful as well. And the last piece, I suppose that segues in, that storytelling. Lots of different ways you can do this. But why not think about, okay, well, why don't we say, well, if we're recruiting and there are maybe 5 role families in our organization, so typical role types or divisions or departments or types of professions, we'll write 5 stories, or we'll do 5 quick videos. And every time we need to recruit into the second of those, or that second vertical, we'll use that video, we'll use that content. And when candidates have applied and we're inviting them to interview, rather than just saying, we invite you to interview, here's the details, why don't we say, hey, you might like to read this story, you might like to look at this video, so that you're increasing their desire to join you. So you don't need to spend lots of money. I'm going to be clear, if you use the right partner, the more you invest not just money, but time and energy and focus, the better and more sustainable the results are. But I think that don't let great get in the way of good. Just get out there and start doing it. One final thing, because I've gone on and on, advocacy. Get your people together and get them involved in sharing stories, get them involved in getting out there on social media and talking about you. If you employ engineers, then those engineers know other engineers. So if you want to attract engineers in, use your people, if it's hairdressers, same deal. We did some work with aged care where we were trying to get not just carers and aged carers who worked for their competitors to join them, but also people to become carers, to move into this space. When you show the carers you have and you let them speak and you share you share their journey and their story, there's no better way to attract more people of the same.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that is such great advice, Mark, around how to start small. And, storytelling, I've learned from you that storytelling is just so valuable. And we've used that with videos before around utilizing people in roles to tell about their own career development throughout the company, but also advocacy, as Mark mentioned. That is also a fantastic way to get referrals and get people in the door and get people kind of pinging ads to other people or liking them on LinkedIn. But also, back to Mark's point, I can't advocate enough for him talking about the proposition of your current people. So get them in a room, and we're virtual at the moment. So if you can't get them in a real room, get them in a virtual room and use a tool such as Jamboard, which is a really great tool through Google, where people put a bunch of Post-it notes up with their ideas so that you're not having to have people talk all the time or feel as though they have to be vocal. But asking those vital questions that Mark said, why did you join? what made you look at the job ad for Employment Hero? What made you look at the job ad for Cloud to Clinic or whatever company it might be? And that gives you that insight into what sparked your interest. Or was it the fact that it was a LinkedIn pushed ad and it was a passive candidate? So that also gives you insight that perhaps your employer brand is not out there and you're having to spend some money on LinkedIn to push your employer brand a little bit.
Alex, thank you so much for that. It makes so much sense. And one of the things you said prompted me. Is it okay if we talk just quickly about employers who know they've got real challenges culturally? Because I've
Yeah.
got to say, I'm finding if there's one thing that's really characterized the last 3 months for us, it's a split between some employers who are just, their people are connected, they feel empowered, they feel very grateful that they're still employed and that they're being looked after, and others where it's gone so far the other way. And it's not enough. You can't just dismiss those employers and say, well, serves you right, so I wonder, and again, I don't know whether anyone will be brave to share this, but if anyone else is finding that, whether it's really extreme or just pockets, I really want to speak to those people and say, you have a huge opportunity to engage your people, and not just because it's the right thing to do and because they'll feel good, but because it will affect their performance, especially now and in 2021. So, but the golden rule is honesty and openness. Square your shoulders, be ready for it, and let them share. And the
Yeah.
surveys are great and whatever else, but if you've got really, really big problems going on, we're working with a few clients right now where we've put EVP and everything else out the window. I've told them, forget about it. Let's talk about how this becomes a truly people-first organization. So we're talking about values, and values that matter, not just words on a poster on a wall, created by the leadership team on an away day. Values that are shaped with the people and that are owned by them. We've talked about leadership and real challenges around how do you get people on the ground leading from the front. And we've talked about team culture and cultural contribution. So there are loads of things you can do. Don't jump to we need some positive PR about us, because your people will rebel. But there are so many ways you can actually connect with them. It's got to start with a bit of humility and openness and say, we really want you to help us become the organization we want to be.
And Mark, you're so right about the humility piece and also the vulnerability piece. We've heard a lot from Patty McCord through Powerful and Brené Brenner about being vulnerable. And what Mark is speaking to is, if you're getting feedback from your employees, whether it's through an employee survey or you're just getting chatter and it's just coming back through to you as leadership, you need to acknowledge it and just say, even if it is as simple as, we've been called out for not dealing with COVID well. In fact, we've been called out for being arseholes. We need your help to get better. And just being really honest about that and putting together some focus groups. Again, use something like Jamboard, it's kind of a whiteboard that's online where people can anonymously put post-it notes together. And you just say to them, how have we screwed up? Tell us, how can we fix it? And that way you're going to retain people and not see retention and a bunch of people either disengaged or leave once COVID's over. And disengagement is as bad as someone leaving, because they're not productive, they're not engaged, and they can get to the point where they're toxic. Yeah,
far worse, because they're occupying a seat. I think that the worst thing in any business is mediocrity, whether it's they're just about connected enough to do their job, or they're just about good enough not to be fired or performance managed. Just awful. How can you grow your organization when 50% of your workforce is like that? So, I think I completely agree with you, Alex. And I think that it also feels better as leaders of an organization or leaders of a function when you sort of share that and become open and vulnerable, when you say, okay, help us. And also, by the way, here's what we need from you. Here's an expectation. We do pay you a salary, we pay you wages. So, and this is what being an employee here means. It's not just doing the job, it's contributing to who we are. Actually, you lose some of the weight off your shoulders. It feels better. And I've seen this so many times, especially in the last 8-9 months. Where leaders go, it's not all on me to step up a lip and pretend I'm not hearing people bitch about me behind my back. We've got to get rid of this and just open up the conversation.
Absolutely. And as a tip to anyone out there, during our all hands, we use a tool called Slido, which people can either put their name to or they can be anonymous and they can ask leadership anything. And we don't modify that channel. People can put, even if there are swear words in it, people can put whatever question they want and it can go to the CEO or anyone on the leadership team. And we will answer those questions. If we don't have an answer, again, we'll be completely honest and say, look, we don't have an answer to this question. We will look into it, and always making sure you're getting back to people. And that goes back to employee surveys as well. If you can't meet what someone's asking, acknowledge that it's been asked for and simply say to your people, that's a bit too expensive going through what we're going through. We'll look into it next year. Just acknowledge that it's been asked for and give a reason or a rationale as to why. Transparency can make such a difference to your people in them understanding why business decisions are made. It's not dissimilar to people not understanding how their own role maybe ties to your organization's purpose. If they can't understand that, then they do feel a little bit lost. Sorry, we've gone completely off topic.
I love
But
it. No,
moving.
well, I don't think we have. I think it's so bang on. It's so important what you're talking about, the connection and engagement, and that's employer branding. You can go out there with the best job ads, beautiful glossy videos, whatever. If your own people are not happy or not connected or are entitled and not performing, there's no point recruiting, because they're just going to come in and join this organization and either leave because it's not for them, or be frustrated and sit there and be upset and unhappy, or become part of the problem and get blunted. So, I think you're bang on, Alex.
Yeah, no, you're right. They would come
Mm.
and leave if that was the case. So moving back on, personally, I'm seeing a lot of brands using social media more and more, even creating TikTok videos, and I'm not even myself a member of TikTok. Do you have any thoughts on how smaller businesses can get involved in this space, or should they avoid social channels such as TikTok altogether?
Yeah, like I think that the first thing to say is, what do your employees use? What is natural? If you employ a lot of younger people, then probably TikTok's a thing, and who you're trying to target. But again, just take the pressure. Think about the smaller business, especially. Take the pressure off yourselves. When people start to say, "Oh, we're not on Facebook. We should really be on Facebook." Well, should you? Do you need to be? It understand. Where are the natural places to exist, and in terms of the content, what is the natural stuff that happens every day? I was talking to a smaller business the other day about this and saying, you don't need to write big articles and have big long videos. Just, and when they talked about the thing, I said, talk me through a typical week, for person in this role, person in this role, person in this role. There's so many opportunities to have a great photo, think about when an employee gets a great bit of feedback or a thank you from a client, just finding a way to make that systematic. So maybe it's a branded visual that has the picture of the person. It has a space for a quote. Maybe it's, here's what a client said about Matthew, our employee, or whatever. Has your logo, and you can put it out. So, I don't think people often think, oh, it's a heavy lifting thing, and I've got to think about TikTok. Well, where are the natural places that you sit and the audiences sit right now? Make them work first. But if you've got employees who are on TikTok, why not let them do it? There's some really great examples if you search it, around how employers and employees are really showcasing their culture through TikTok. Why not? I've got to say, it makes me feel pretty old as well. I'm pretty scared, but I think, why not? Give it a go. But just take the pressure off yourself. Just give it a try.
Fantastic. And finally, what are your top 3 pieces of advice that you'd give to people thinking about their employer brand going into 2021?
The first piece of advice, I think it reiterates everything I've been trying to say, which is don't start with marketing and gloss. Start with your culture and the leaders that are enabling that culture. So grab your managers. So and we work with organizations where you've got, your senior leaders and whatever, all very well, but what about your managers on the ground? What about your team leads, your supervisors, your leading hands? Think about them, grab them, inspire them, and get them excited about their role as leaders. Help them, educate them, but also set very clear expectations, because they dominate your employee experience. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be use storytelling. So really, you don't have to jump in with EVPs and big strategy pieces. What is going on in your organization? I'll give you an example. If you're trying to think of the best example to give you, if you're trying to recruit into a role and your LinkedIn page just says, we're hiring, we're hiring, we're hiring. So every time you need to hire, that's what you're posting. The number of people that are actually going to engage with that and feel that it's useful to them are very, very small. But if 2 weeks in advance of knowing you're going to go to market to hire, you share a story about somebody from that team. If you're trying to target somebody, let's say you're trying to target parents returning to work after kids. Well, guess what? Tell the story of somebody who's returned to work and what they've done and how they've balanced it and how hard it's been, not just, oh, it's all been wonderful. So I suppose it's just really think about content that's honest. You'll get a lot of people when you first ask them, employees, can we write your story? Can we do your story? We'll go, no, I don't want to do it. What we do, if you want it, feel free to link in with me and we share examples of this all the time. But once they've seen examples of these stories, once they've seen videos, they understand what it's about. And it's not scripts. Don't give them scripts. Don't tell them what to do. Just ask them about why they do what they do, and share that. And I think that will make a huge difference. So the first one, grab your managers, grab your leaders, really inspire them and empower them and set some expectations. The second one is use that storytelling and grab that storytelling. And the third one, once you've got that done, find ways to help your people become advocates. You will have engaged employees who want to help you grow the organization, who want to help you get there. And the big one, they want to work alongside people that they like and that they respect. So it's not about, oh, help us recruit. It's saying, help us put the right people alongside you. So I'll give you one little tiny example. If you're doing a job ad, put a DIY video on a smartphone of 1 or 2 people who are doing the job that you're recruiting for. Don't have a formal video from the CEO sitting in a posh office if you're employing someone 22-year-old to do PR or a hairdresser or a retail person or a builder, right? Show somebody who's doing the job and get them talking about why they like it and why they don't. So when you're honest about that, you will get better applications. By the way, when you share those people's stories, it'll also do wonders in showing your own team. We recognize our people, we value our people, we're grateful they choose us. And the pride and the connection and then the results that come around employee performance, consistently we're seeing that grow. So I think that's really important. Grab your managers, do the storytelling, and then get your people involved from an advocacy perspective.
Amazing. And I do have one last question that just popped into my mind because it's something that always irks me, is what do you do with bad Glassdoor reviews?
We've actually helped clients with full strategies on this. And the first thing you do is you square your shoulders, you take a deep breath and you listen. We all know it's the same thing as TripAdvisor. The majority of people who leave a TripAdvisor review are complaining. So we're more likely to leave a bad review if we are a review if it was a bad experience or we're unhappy than if we are happy. So the first thing to do is really look at each review in turn, give it credence. Don't jump to what are we going to do? What can we learn? And the scariest Glassdoor reviews aren't the obvious people who are just way off the charts and whatever. It's the measured, calm responses that are criticizing you and saying, it's that classic advice to management. Have a good look at what they're saying. If you are seeing consistent feedback that is, there's themes across this, do something about it. What's our plan? So that's the first thing. The second thing is always reply. Always reply. I don't care how unreasonable they've been. The thing to remember is you're not opening up a can of worms because they can't reply after you've replied. So from a tactical point of view, it's not like Facebook where someone posts something and then you can keep commenting and it's feeding the trolls. Always reply. Remember when you're replying that you're speaking 5% to the employee or the former employee who's posted this and 95% to everybody else in the market, future employees and your current team. Show your people that you're listening, that you've heard. So classics, I'll give you some examples. Let's say it is a reasonably measured critical review. It's saying, thank you for your feedback. We're sorry that it didn't work out for you, or we're sorry that you're not happy. We're really worried that it seems that you're an employee still working for us. If it's a current employee, please come and talk to us. And then address those points. And, let's say someone says, management in some areas is so woefully lacking. If that is something that is, it's true and your people are saying it, have some courage and own it. We know we still have some work to do in some parts of our business. We're incredibly proud that we've actually improved hugely in lots of areas. And actually, we're recruiting all the time. We're training our people all the time to get better. Feedback, if you can come to us and share it with us and talk us through your experiences, that will really help us keep going. What an amazing message out to market. If I'm a candidate thinking, do I want to work for this company? And I find it all the time, people are going and checking you out and they're listening to what people are saying. they will always want to see an employer that is owning it and sharing it.
I love it.
I think so have the conversation, get involved. In terms of getting positive reviews, sure, ask your people. If you've got advocates, get them to do reviews. But I've seen people who do a big round of emailing everyone saying, please leave us a review. I'll tell you what will happen. Most people won't leave a review, but they'll hold on to it. And now they know about Glassdoor, and when they feel negative, they'll put one out there.
Or it all happens on the one day. So you have 10, 20 reviews all happening on the 26th of November.
And everybody knows it's a fake, right? And the worst I've seen, and I know companies have done this, fake reviews, where it's just so obvious. I don't care how clever you think you are, it doesn't look good. So own it. People have got very smart. Candidates, employees got very smart around deciphering the BS from the honest and the real, and just be okay about where you're heading, and invest in becoming a better organization by grabbing that feedback.
Fantastic. I love it, Mark. Your insights are incredible. So be courageous, own it. It's something I need to do, is pop onto Glassdoor and respond to those, because as you say, I don't put up those shoulders. I cringe. I want to cry. I want to crawl into a hole. It's just, you take it so personally when you're in a role like mine.
I love your honesty.
Please pop your Q&As into the Q&A box for Mark or myself to answer. And for any of you who want to reach out to Mark, I've certainly seen the impact of the work he's done, and coming back to that storytelling rather than kind of going out there and putting showy ads on. And as he mentioned, the CEO in the office and a video of that, he really works around current employees and them telling the stories about working for a company and their own career development and their own experience, and the impact that has had on organizations that he's worked for, and their recruitment strategy and the talent that they've been able to bring on has just been invaluable in terms of ROI. So please do reach out to Mark. Mark, how can people reach out to you?
Yep, you can email me at mark@employerbrandingaustralia.com, or you can link in with me and message me. It's no worries. And I guess the thing I'd say is, hopefully you've seen this today, but you won't be told to. Clients choose us if we're right for them, and that's up to them. So, but just connect. We share a lot. We also have our Employer Branding Australia LinkedIn page where we share an awful lot. If you want to join us on Facebook and Instagram, we've got about 2 followers plus my mum. So feel free to come and follow us there. But in LinkedIn, that's where we have most of our stuff going on. But I thank you very, very much. And thank you, Brian. I just saw your comment about my philosophy. I think I'm just too tired, and I've seen too much not to be honest about this stuff. And actually, it feels so good. Alex, I'm glad that you're going to go and respond and be human. But I think the thing is, don't feel, I know you wouldn't be, but don't feel the need to calculate and plan it. Just be honest about it, but also don't be too apologetic. Employees, we pay employees money to come and do a job. If it's really toxic, if it's really bad, wow, let's improve it, because we don't want to be guardians or custodians of that. But there is a reality here that we need people to turn up. And thank you, Brian. Yeah, that's Bryony. That's my email address on the chat. One other thing, if you are doing content, there's no doubt. Thank you, Alex, for your for the praise. It is a skill, and there is some magic around really great, consistent storytelling, and not just the artistry of writing, but or video and so on, but actually the planning and the strategy. Starting every content piece by saying, what are we actually trying to achieve? Who are we talking to? What do we want to do? And how are we going to do that? But if you do it on your own, you can still do it. But the golden rule: don't sleepwalk with content. There's a lot of content out there on LinkedIn at the moment. It's so dull and so boring, and will put people off. So the classic is I was telling this story with one of our clients, Icon Group, in a group session with them. And I said that, I see this post like Nigel from IT, and there's a picture of Nigel who looks very uncomfortable being photographed. And it says, Nigel works for us because he loves the people and he wants to make a difference, which is just cliche. Nigel has a dog and loves his dog, and his favorite ice cream is strawberry. And I just don't care. Just think about, will they care? It's a great question to ask yourself if you're going to put content out there. To complete the story, I was sharing this with Icon Group, and afterwards, Shannon, who runs People and Culture there, messaged me and said, oh my goodness, we have a guy called Nigel in IT who has a dog and his favorite ice cream is strawberry, because I bought one for him the other day. Very, very weird moment in that situation. But thankfully, they're not putting out content that's like that. So
Yep, and I think certainly our marketing team would agree. And I think that's the other point as well, to make to everyone, is to make sure you do work really closely with your marketing team on any employer branding, because anything you're saying internally, you need to be saying externally as a brand to your customers as well, and be living and breathing that. So that's really important too. So it looks like we don't have any questions. Mark, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and I will be jumping onto Glassdoor probably next week when I've got some time, and I will square my shoulders and get up the bravery and the courage to actually start responding to some negative reviews that we've received. And that's just
Thank you,
being
Alex. Thank you so
completely
much.
authentic to people.
I hope others do too. And we also have a load of free guides. Again, you won't be put on email drips and you won't be sold to and whatever else. But we've got guides on how to create EVP, how to do strategy and so on. So if you'd like them, just email me or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll happily share them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mark. And thank you everyone for joining us. We know it's the tail end of the year, and webinars and content is getting tiring for some. So we really do appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. And thanks again, Mark. Looking forward to working with you more in the future.
Thank you, Warren. I just saw your question. If you don't have reviews on Glassdoor, don't introduce it. Just wait and just keep monitoring it for when you do. It means that no employee has found you and decided to leave a review yet. So have a look at Seek as well. Seek's company reviews are much more prevalent in Australia because of Seek's usage. And remember that Seek is, when somebody is considering applying for a job with you, they're seeing the stars. So if you're sitting there with 0.5 star out of 5, it is impacting on whether people are going to want to apply to join you. So absolutely, go and have a look at Seek, have a look at Indeed, who also do reviews, and have a look at PayScale. Sorry, Alex, I just saw the question.
No, amazing. Warren said he will do, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, Mark. We really appreciate it. See you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
See ya.
Bye.